In 2014, a man who played over 800 professional matches and earned an estimated £20 million declared himself bankrupt. His name is David James. He was England's goalkeeper. And he is nowhere near alone. One sporting charity claims as many as 3 in 5 Premier League footballers face bankruptcy within 5 years of retiring. The Players' Union says that's badly overstated. Nearer 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 5. Sit with that for a second. The two organisations closest to the problem cannot agree whether this destroys 20% of players or 60%. Nobody is counting. That's how invisible this is. So this is how it actually happens. Not the tabloid version. The 6 levels almost every player descends, and the one thing that decides who climbs back out. You joined an academy at 8 years old. You trained while your friends had childhoods. You left school with nothing, because school was the thing you did between sessions, and everyone agreed that was fine, because you were going to make it. The overwhelming majority of boys in that system never play a single professional minute. You are the exception. You made it. And at 20 years old, someone hands you more money per week than your father earned in a year. Nobody teaches you money. You have never had a job outside football. You don't know what a pension is, what leverage means, or why anyone would need an accountant. So you do what everyone around you does. You buy the car, you buy your mum the house, and you say yes to the friend with the investment opportunity, because he's been your friend since you were 9, and you have no idea how to say no to people who knew you before. You have advisors. You don't understand what they do. You sign what they put in front of you. Every player at this level assumes the money is the story. It isn't. The money is just the thing that decides whether level 4 is survivable. The first crack is never financial. It's physical. You're 26. Something tears. You've been injured before. This one is different. The surgeon uses the word manage instead of fix. You come back a fraction slower. In a sport decided by fractions, that is everything. And then you get dropped. Here's the part nobody prepares you for. The moment you stop being useful, the building changes temperature. The staff are still polite. Your teammates are busy. The manager who called you his warrior in October doesn't look up when you walk past in March. For the first time in your life, you are alone with a question you have never had to ask. If I'm not this, what am I? That question, not the injury, is what actually kills people. Hold on to it. It comes back at level 5. You are 33, nobody signs you. There's no ceremony, no announcement. There's just a summer where the phone doesn't ring, and then a season starting without you in it. Understand exactly what has happened here. On a single day, at an age when most people are halfway through their career, you have simultaneously lost your job, your income, your daily structure, your entire social circle, your physical purpose, and the only identity you have ever had. Any one of those breaks an ordinary person. You got all 6 at once, at 33, having been prepared for none of them. The average professional career lasts around 11 or 12 years. Almost every player is out of the game before 40, and most are out long before that. And the money that everyone assured you would last forever, was quietly calculated against a career that didn't. This is the level people think they understand. They don't. The assumption is that footballers go broke on Lamborghinis and champagne. Occasionally. Mostly, it's duller and much more ordinary than that. The property was leveraged against an income that stopped. The investment came from someone you trusted, into something neither of you understood. Film schemes, property deals, businesses run by people who found you precisely because you were 22 with money and no financial education. The divorce split what was left of a life built around a job that no longer exists. David James, 800 matches, England's #1, went through bankruptcy in 2014. His possessions eventually sold at auction. Lee Hendry was earning over £30,000 a week at Aston Villa and won an England cap. He was declared bankrupt in 2012. He later spoke openly to the BBC about spiralling debts and a marriage breaking down, and he was still playing in non-league football at 35. John Arne Rees won the Champions League with Liverpool then lost a fortune to debt and a dispute with his own agent. These are not cautionary freaks. These are normal outcomes of a system that hands 20-year-olds enormous money, no education, and a decade to make it last 50. But money is recoverable. People rebuild from bankruptcy every day. What happens at level 5 often isn't recoverable, and it's the one nobody films. Go back to level 2. The question, if I'm not this, what am I? You've now had 4 years to not answer it, and whatever you were using to fill the empty hours, the card school, the app on your phone, the bar after training, is now filling considerably more of them. It was a way to pass time when you had too much of it. Now it's the only structure left in your week. Here is what makes this different from any ordinary crisis, and it's the whole point of this video. You cannot ask for help. You are a man whose entire professional worth was physical strength, formed inside a culture that spent 20 years teaching you that admitting weakness is the single, unforgivable thing. You have watched what happens to players who show it. Paul Merson was an Arsenal and England footballer who has since spent years telling anyone who'll listen what he hid, and for how long, and what it took from him. So you don't tell anyone. You go quiet. That's the mechanism, not the money, not the injury, the silence. Which is why a handful of men matter more than any trophy they ever lifted. Tony Adams captained Arsenal and England. In his autobiography, he wrote about being an alcoholic while being, by common consent, the best defender in the country. And then he did something almost no athlete had done before. He built the thing he'd needed and couldn't find. Sporting Chance. A clinic for sports people for exactly this. Merson has told his story publicly for years, over and over, in a job where he could easily have said nothing. Not because it's comfortable, because every time he says it out loud, it gets fractionally easier for the next 25-year-old to say it too. They didn't survive because they were tougher than the players who didn't. They survived because at some point, someone broke the silence. And someone else answered, me too. The game has changed since. There are well-being officers now, aftercare programs, financial education in academies. It is nowhere close to enough. The bankruptcies are still happening. But it exists because a few men were willing to look weak in public. Which brings us back to the number nobody can agree on. 3 in 5, says one charity. 1 in 10, says the union. Here's what that argument actually tells you. Nobody is keeping count. These men leave the game and step off the edge of the map, and the sport that made millions from them mostly finds out how they're doing when it reaches a newspaper. You're 19 again. 60,000 people are singing your name, and everyone is telling you you've made it. Nobody's telling you that the hardest thing you'll ever do isn't winning anything. It's being a person on the day the singing stops. The ones who make it through aren't the strongest. They're the ones who found something to be, other than a footballer, before they had to. The full law of football's greatest miracle and its most bitter rivalry are both on this channel.